If you want to know what's up, we're going to break all the rules right now. This is what we're about to do. We're going to break every single rule in the podcast world, in the content creation world, in the video marketing, whatever you want to call it. We're going to break all the rules. I just got to get this adjusted first, maybe. We'll see if we're going to break all the rules if I can get this down some. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to break all the rules because I'm literally going to do this right now off of this microphone as I continue to fuck around with this mic. There we go. All right. I'm going to fuck around with this microphone, and then I'm going to use my cell phone to record the video. So right now what I'm doing is I'm talking into this mic, which runs through this cord that goes to a Zoom H6 media mixer, which then goes directly to my computer, which is sitting directly behind the phone. And the phone is recording the message right now on this end via the cinematic view of the new iPhone 14 Pro Max, which is what we're using to do the video with. I think this is a viable option until I can find my 35 millimeter digital camera and get it set up. I get the same field of view and the same focus that I'm looking for, as well as, you can't beat it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal quality. So let's get into it. The fact of the matter is that we are stepping into 2023. In fact, tomorrow is going to be New Year's Eve. And I'm testing new setups because I want to kick off the Savage Freedoms podcast. So literally, if you get a chance to hear this, that means that you are an insider because this isn't going to go out to everybody. This is going to be a closed test. Eventually, I might make this my first episode. Who fucking knows? All I know is that I want to test this setup to make sure that it works. And so far, I'm extremely impressed. Today, I purchased a new Shure microphone. The sound quality is spectacular. It doesn't require extra power. It's a passive system, runs directly into the H6. It's absolutely spectacular. I really like the setup so far. Now I'm just going to get a phone holder so I can set my phone up so I can get some good quality shots with the phone. And it's a win. It's a win-win. At the end of the day, this is solid. So let's talk about New Year's and let's really test this setup. Yesterday, I saw fucking lions at the zoo in Greenville, South Carolina. I saw lions at the zoo and they were in a cage. One of the lions was pacing back and forth. And I kept thinking about my life. I kept thinking about where I am, where I've come from, where I'm going. And in so many ways, I still feel like that fucking caged lion pacing back and forth. When I chose to get out of the military, I found myself being of service to everybody else. I was helping everyone else grow their companies. I was helping everyone else. I was being of service. I was doing everything I could to figure out who the fuck I was, figure out what my identity was outside of the military, figure out my mission, and figure out my purpose. And this is what I came to understand eventually. And yesterday, seeing these fucking lions in the cage, this sort of triggered it all for me in my mind. What I did is when you're in the military, you are, for those of us that came from the special operations community, and even those of us who aren't in the special operations community, when you go to combat, you're a warrior. You're a lion. You have the ability to be extremely savage, yet also you are savage for reasons that are, at least in our minds, sound and valid and virtuous. But you're still in a cage. You're in an operational cage that the military puts constraints around you, and for good fucking reason. And also, it gets in the fucking way of doing your job. Under Obama for 8 years, we had rules of engagement that ultimately led to the deaths of a lot of U.S. service members because he changed the way we were allowed to engage bad guys, and it really sucked for us. But that's not the point of this conversation. The point of this conversation is that I watched these caged lions, one of them pacing back and forth, and the other one just being lazy underneath a rock. And I just kept thinking, being in the military really does create a cage in a lot of ways. It limits your ability to operate. It does give you focus. It gives you identity, mission, and purpose, but it defines identity, mission, and purpose for you. It takes away personal agency in a lot of ways with regards to how you identify yourself. Now, I'm not saying the military brainwashes you in any way. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that for the longest time, my identity was the hat that I wore on my head or my MOS. It wasn't Adam, the content of my character. It was whatever job I did. That was my identity. My purpose was to be better at my job, whatever my job was, whatever hat I wore on my head. If I was a Green Beret or I was in the airborne unit or as a medic or I was an infantry guy or was a tanker or whatever it might have been, whatever you might do in the military, your purpose is to be better at doing the job you're doing, period. And your mission is whatever higher command authority pushes down to you. So if your mission is, hey, go take this structure, go take this compound, that's your mission. Higher command authority pushes the mission to you. Your identity is your job. Your purpose is to be better at that job. And your mission is whatever higher command authority gives to you. And a lot of times when you get out, and I know especially for me, when I got out, I lost my identity. I didn't know who the fuck I was. I had no idea who I was anymore. No clue. No idea who I was supposed to be. I didn't even know that I could choose my identity. I didn't know that, and by identity, I'm not talking about gender neutral fluidity, all the other bullshit. I'm not talking about choosing your fucking pronouns. None of that horseshit. I'm talking about the reality of who you are at the core of your character. What core values do you exude? What characteristic traits do you want to live by? What values do you want to take action around in order to define your identity, who you are in the world? I've gotten to the point where I realize now, more than anything, my identity is very simple. It doesn't have to be some existential crisis of self. I think a lot of times people, and I say people, and I'll include myself in that, we set ourselves some existential convoluted concept or some existential crisis because it gives us permission to never take action on defining or identifying the things that we're looking to identify or define. For example, you ever asked anybody the question, what do you want? Like, what do you want in life, bro? Oh, I want to be happy. Cool story, dude. Yeah, we all want to be fucking happy, but what do you actually want? Define it. Well, I want to be happy. Okay. What does that mean? But that's the piece. The identity by which we live all too often is defined by the actions that we take. So we take actions, and the actions that we take define who we are. If you think about a drug addict is defined by the actions of the addiction. An alcoholic is defined by the actions of the addiction. An asshole is defined by the actions of being an asshole. I mean, all these things, we find definition in the actions that we take. But let me help you understand something. Your identity is not derived by the actions that you take. The actions that you take are derived by your identity. Your character is not defined by the actions that you take. The actions that you take are defined by your character. Who you are defines what you do. And I will also say this to you. If you say that you want some shit, and you're not willing to define what it is that you want, if you're saying that you want some shit and you're not willing to take action to go after the things that you want, then you're a fucking liar. Show me what you do, and I'll prove to you what you want. Period. Other than that, you're just full of shit. So we lose our identity. We step into the civilian market. We lose our identity. I'm not really sure the fuck we are. I know for me, this is true. I didn't really know who I was. And then we also lose our purpose. Our purpose is to be better at our identity. Our identity is our job title, our hat, whatever the fucking thing we wear on our head or MOS is given to us. Our purpose is to be better at that. And then we lose our purpose. So now we don't know who we are, and we don't know what the fuck to do. And the last piece is the mission. What is the driving motivational factor of being better at your job other than your own personal satisfaction? Well, it's to be able to achieve success on whatever mission gets pushed down to you. Think about that for a second. You step into the civilian world, you don't know who you are, you don't know what purpose you serve, and you have no mission to execute. Then you become listless. You become hopeless. You go from 255 pounds to 315 pounds in a matter of months. Your testosterone bottoms out, you stop performing, you get into horrible depression. Then eventually you write your suicide note, drink every drop of alcohol in the house on a Wednesday morning, and put a pistol in your mouth. But you couldn't even do that right because you were so drunk you passed out in the middle of doing it. Only to have your fiance walk in the door as she's coming home from her internship, where combined we're not making any more than about $18,500 a year. And she gets upset with you because she thinks all you did was fuck around, drink, and play with your pistol all day. See, the piece for me, the thing for me, was that I had to have somebody give me a hand up, not a handout. I had to have somebody help me see that I still had value. I still had something to offer. Also, give me a new mission. I had to have someone give me a new mission because at the time, I didn't know how to function or operate without that mission. I didn't know how to function or operate. I didn't have a purpose. I didn't have an identity. So I began to find myself. And looking at those lions in their habitat, and I call it a cage, but they lived, I would say for all intents and purposes, a very comfortable, provided for life. They lived in a habitat in Greenville, South Carolina. Food's provided to them regularly. They're not out hunting. They live comfortably. I'm sure that comfort has had them lose their edge, that savage edge, that ability to not only just hunt in the wild, but to be a fucking lion. And I became a man in a cage again, not because it was derogatory or negative, not because someone tried to put constraints on me, but because I put constraints on myself. I put constraints on myself in such a way in the process of trying to identify who I was, who I am, that I went right back into doing what I was good at doing, which was just being of service, doing what I could to help the team be successful. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. There's nothing wrong with being a sound leader. There's nothing wrong with supporting a team. There's nothing wrong with being a team player. In fact, if you want to create great success, you got to go to fucking together. You got to go with other people. You got to have a fucking powerful team that supports you and going forward. You have to. If you don't have it, then you can only go so far. But with that being said, I was in a cage again. I was in a cage again because I didn't know my own value. And every expansion of my life was me stepping into a bigger cage. Oh, this is a little roomy. Oh, there's more space in here. But the fact of the matter is that I just moved from one cage to the next cage to the next cage because I never truly understood what I had to offer. And it wasn't until September of 2021 when I finally stepped out of the last cage that I put myself in. And I started to hunt for me in a way that I've never truly done. The last, 14, 16 months, they really have been some of the hardest months of my entire life. Harder than selection, harder than being overseas. Been some of the hardest months. But one of the biggest motivating factors for me was a huge life shift. I had a baby girl in my life. At the time of this recording, she's 20 months. She'll be 21 months in January. It changed everything for me. And what I realized is that by caging myself and going from cage to cage, at the time I didn't see it as a cage. At the time I just saw me being horribly fucking unhappy, horribly unfulfilled, not serving my purpose, which is to create impact in the world. And let me rephrase that. I was serving my purpose in a lot of ways, but what I was doing was I was serving my purpose by serving the purpose of someone else. I didn't have a fucking say in a company that I helped create. I didn't have a say in how we got to serve our purposes within that company. And this is why I'm so fucking passionate about business leadership and sound quality leaders developing really good people inside of their business. I don't want to be a fucking caged lion. And I can tell you this right now without any doubt. The next cage I face will be the cage that I create myself on fear. The limit of my rise will only be limited by the amount of fear I have that I permit, if I so choose, to dictate my actions or control my next level decisions. The next cage that I create in my life will be the cage of fear. There's no question. The fear to be successful, the fear to venture out, the fear to ask for support or assistance, the fear to make that pitch to a venture capitalist, the fear to develop what it is that I want to develop and put myself out there in such a way that not only will it demand accountability from me, to me, for me, but from those people that I interact with on a level that I potentially have never experienced before. That's going to be the next cage. And I can promise you this, the cage that you're in right now,